Hello and welcome to another episode of Discussion with Simone on Philosophy. Today we have chosen to discuss about a topic probably which is of interest to people who are more interested in psychology or psychiatry. It's called theory of mind. So we'll be discussing this topic in this way that Simone would primarily be asking me questions about this concept of theory of mind, and then I'll try my best to answer these questions. If I don't know any answer, probably I'll just tell where else we can go for it, the references. All right, before I conclude it. Is that okay, Simone, with you?
Decent.
All right. Okay, so let's start then. Yeah.
All right. So, can you start us off with what exactly theory of mind is?
Okay. Yep. Theory of mind is a concept which is very essential to any human interactions. That essentially means one's ability to understand the other person's thinking and feelings. All right, that's the definition of theory of mind. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of something I learned in my first year of IGCSE psychology.
Yep.
It's Piaget's model of development in young children especially.
Yeah.
You had something called the pre-operational stage,
Mm-hmm.
in which you had something called egocentrism. On within the layman's vocabulary, that kind of holds a different connotation,
Mm-hmm.
but within Piaget's experiments, it meant viewing the world from only your perspective, and that would mean children younger than a certain age, I believe it was around 5,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they couldn't see other people's perspectives. A great example of this is a child calling their parent on their phone, and the parent asks them a question like, "Did you eat today?" or "Did you sleep well?"
Mm-hmm.
And the child will nod along as an answer, and they can't understand that their parent can't see them because they are egocentric. They see it from themselves.
Okay, all right. I think that is very important. In fact, I was going to discuss about it. So yes, it has its origin in Piaget's staging of children when they sort of grow up, or the human development, as you call that. So again, it is the ability, as I mentioned, of children or individuals to think in terms of others, so that what other people are thinking or feeling. Yes, it does develop around 4 to 5 years of age. So that's the time it sort of develops, and then it becomes gradually more sort of formal operational stage when it
Yeah.
comes around say 11 to 12 years of age. It becomes more formal that time. But yeah, it has its origin that time. All right. So that's about the theory of mind and when it starts. Sometimes some people are unable to develop theory of mind, and what happens during that time, they become the so-called mind blindness, we call that. They're blind to other people's thinkings, other people's feelings. All right, so does that make sense?
Yeah. Are there components to the theory of mind?
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked this question. In fact, I was going to do that. Essentially, a theory of mind have got two components, or in fact, some people tell us two stages. Okay, one is called cognitive theory of mind, another is called affective theory of mind. I'll discuss it in a bit more detail. Cognitive means you think about the thoughts, the thought of another person, what he thinks or his mental state. Okay, you are aware of your mental state, then you can project it upon other persons. Okay, you know that what they are thinking. That's one aspect of it. Second aspect is the affective or the emotional part of it, the emotions or feelings that you will be able to you're able to guess. Of course, you are aware of your emotions first before you are able to appreciate other people's emotions. So these two stages are often considered the two components, you can say, of a theory of mind, cognitive and affective. There are some other sort of social components are there, but for our discussion, we limit it to only these two components. All right.
You mentioned earlier how some children or some people feel face blindness, is that it?
Mind blindness, I said,
Mind
yeah.
blindness. How exactly does that work? Can theory of mind be taught to them?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, in fact, that's another aspect that we should be discussing some other time, that whether theory of mind can be taught. Okay. Um, there are studies which show that theory of mind to an extent could be taught, although the results are quite equivocal. Means we do not know whether really we can teach them and whether that teaching in one context transfers or translated to others context in the life.
One way I find that interesting is, once again, linking back to my classes, is that an experiment which I think is called the Salian test.
Yes, yeah,
It's where you have a theoretical situation.
yeah.
Sally has a basket, Anne has a box.
Mm-hmm.
Sally puts a red ball in her basket, and she walks away into a different room. Anne takes the red ball from Sally's basket,
You can look at the camera. Yeah.
transfers it to her box, and then Sally comes back and wants to play with her ball. And then you'd ask a child, where would Sally look first, in the basket or in the box?
Yeah.
And children who haven't developed a theory of mind, they would say the box because they've seen the whole situation unfold, and they don't understand that Sally in the situation can't tell that it hasn't moved because she wasn't there. And while you could tell a child that the answer is indeed the box, they won't be able to understand why that is until they reach a certain landmark.
Yeah, I think I'm really so glad that you have read about it and I could tell. But that is called as false belief test, one of the most celebrated tests for theory of mind. And exactly the Sully and Anne are the sort of proponents in that test. So that's about um, uh, uh, like the test in which you judge how much the person has got theory of mind, so that you can probably impart some form of teaching, as you sort of mentioned. While talking about teaching, let me just give you some few more hints that like theory of mind is not necessarily limited to children. Even the adults can be taught a little bit about theory of mind. Okay, one way some people believe, it may not have enough empirical evidence, is that by reading some sort of what do you call novels, like reading literary fiction, can improve one's theory of mind. All right. So that is one of the ways at looking at it. Any other questions or that you have on theory of mind?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are there certain disorders, you could say, where theory of mind might be impacted? Like I heard on the autistic spectrum, on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah. I'll be happy to discuss about that. You might have heard about autism or autistic spectrum. Okay, the theory of mind has been applied. So let's let me give you a range of disorders in which it has been applicable. Yes, ASD or autistic spectrum disorder is one in which the child hasn't developed theory of mind. That's the assumption. So the child is unable to relate to other people.
Yeah.
The child is unable to understand other people's perspectives. All right. So that's one of the classic disorders. It's also been talked about in conditions like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You might have heard about it, ADHD, and some cases of, in fact, mania or psychosis. Also, it has been talked about.
I heard that your ability to understand other people's perspectives can be impaired when it comes to things like depression, or again schizophrenia is a
Yeah,
big one
yeah.
because it
So
deals with the loss of reality or understanding of reality.
yeah, schizophrenia is related to that. It's a thought disorder in which people have got difficulty in keeping in pace with the reality, or the reality touch is impaired. Yeah, but as I mentioned, some illnesses per se that impairs persons' ability to empathize or to relate to other persons. All right. So in that situations, some people propose that theory of mind is involved. All right. So that's one of the things. I just wanted to clarify another sort of point in this regard. Um, the first thing that we discuss in theory of mind uh, is called as the so-called the first order belief, is that the ability of a person to think that what one is thinking or feeling is different from others. Other people could have different type of thinking or feeling. That's the first belief, they call that theory of mind. And so that could be tested by all those tests that they talk about. Okay. Anything else that you have in your mind?
I mean, one thing that I did find really interesting was the way you mentioned how fantasy or fiction can increase or at least
Improve. Yeah.
improve your theory of mind. And as a writer, I find that really interesting because one way I've always looked at fantasy is trying to believe or understand the fantastical, but at the same time knowing that's not real, but still indulging in it. And I think it's an important ability to be able to enjoy or at least understand how fiction works. Because my mother, for one thing, she never really understood fantasy or fiction. To her, it would always be the question of it doesn't work like this. And I've always wondered how that might affect her imagination or the way she views the world. And bringing up theory of mind is an interesting thing because I'd suggest that she might possibly have a different approach to understanding other people's perspectives.
Okay.
It's
So
a
in
bit of a
other words,
stretch.
probably will tell that she might be lacking some aspects of theory of mind. Well, jokes apart, what I'm telling that those strategies to improve theory of mind hasn't been validated in many of those studies. We do not know exactly what will be improving it, but we know that there is something in people's mind or people's development that makes them having different degrees of theory of mind. Okay, one related suggestion probably would be probably one of the few last ones we are discussing today is that the difference of theory of mind from empathy, isn't it? Do you understand what empathy is?
It's putting yourself in other people's shoes.
Exactly, that's one of those very classic definitions. So it somehow looks similar to theory of mind, but the basic difference is that in theory of mind we project that our thoughts, our emotions to other people. Okay, we try to understand uh, other people's, what do you call, like their thought process from our perspective. Empathy is to infer, to feel the other person's feelings. All right, somehow similar but not exactly they are synonymous.
Yeah.
All right, so in short, I believe theory of mind is an important concept in psychology or in mental health, and it's important to understand that the theory of mind has got different stages, and it develops at certain age and gradually crystallizes as individuals grow up. Okay, and although some people believe that to an extent we can teach others about theory of mind, but that has not been fully validated. We do not know about it.
Yeah.
So that's an important concept when we especially read about mental conditions, particularly at autistic spectrum disorder, okay, and various other neurodevelopmental disorders as well. All right. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, yeah. So that's it then. So thank you once again for watching our discussion. And again, it's a disclaimer we should have told earlier that we are not experts in philosophy or theory of mind for that matter. We are only interested in that area. So all your questions, your comments are always welcome. And until we meet next week, have a nice day.